We are John and Ellie, the Barefoot Doctors. Join us on this new chapter on our brand new Leopard 45 Catamaran as we unearth the jewels of the Med. And the world. Because life is better barefoot.
Welcome back, guys, and now we are in Italy, in the Bay of Naples, anchored at Sorrento. Come with us today as we explore the amazing ruins left over from the eruption of Vesuvius that completely destroyed the city. It gives an amazing insight into how people lived in those days, how the city operated, and what they were actually doing at the moment of their death. This is probably not a video for the faint-hearted, so be warned. If you are cruising down the coast of Italy and wish to visit Pompeii, Sorrento is a really convenient place to stop. This gives you free anchoring in 15 to 20 meters and easy transfers to Pompeii by bus and train. The day tripping motorboats do create lots of swell during the day, but at night it does calm down and you get a peaceful sleep. If you are faced with a northerly blow, you can go around the point to the south side of the peninsula and get protection there. The marinas around here are exorbitantly expensive, over 200 euros, so anchoring here for free is very nice, as well as the easy transfers to Pompeii.
Okay, so we got tickets to the train station. We weren't really sure what train we were supposed to be on because there's nothing to indicate where it is, but the old guy from across the road said, "Ugh, ugh, ugh." Don't know what he was saying, but anyway, I think this is the right train. There's a busker on the train here.
Very loud.
On the way to Pompeii. We have opted for the tour guide, and there's about 20 of us, all following this very short lady with an umbrella. And
Got our earpieces, so we can hear what she's telling us.
Yeah, which is really good, because if you fall back to be in the back of the crowd, then at least you can still hear what she's saying. So this cost us an extra, say, $24 to get a guided tour rather than just an audio and tickets yourself. So we'll see how that goes. Will it be a good call or not? Bit hamstrung with time because we've left Nell on the boat swinging off the pick, and it was really quite choppy, and there's a lot of boats yesterday, so we don't want to be away too long. So we are here in Pompeii, and a little precursor to our tour is just letting you know that a little bit of information about Pompeii was covered by the eruption of Vesuvius, which is the volcano, in 97 BC. 79
BC?
BC. No, AD. It was after the death.
You will put it underneath. Long time ago.
Anyway, it was covered. There was about 2,000 registered people that were killed in the disaster. Apparently there was more, but if you were a slave or if you weren't wealthy, you didn't have, you weren't registered by birth, so who knows, there could have been thousands more. Covered in about 6 meters of volcanic ash and debris, and it was then rediscovered by archaeological finders in the 16th century. So that's pretty cool.
For 1600 years they didn't know it existed.
And here is the culprit, Mount Vesuvius. It was 3,000 meters high before the spectacular eruption, and now it's only 1,281 meters high. It blew itself apart in a fiery inferno that lasted about 3 days, and it was visible for miles. On that fateful day, black smoke darkened the skies, and the eruption laid volcanic ash 6 to 10 meters deep, which buried everything and preserved everything as it was, kind of like a frozen snapshot of time. How scary it must have been when the volcano was actually erupting. The population was killed with mostly fumes, and then the thick volcanic ash buried them in their tracks. Here's some cool facts about Pompeii. Did you know that graffiti actually existed way back then? Because that's what they discovered on the walls. What about this fact? Hundreds of years of research and excavations have only recovered 2/3 of Pompeii.
Let's look at these mummified bodies that are such an amazing feature of the Pompeii visit. Before we start though, these are not the real bodies. These are just plaster casts of the spaces that were found within the volcanic ash that had preserved the shape of the bodies contained within those spaces. Here you see a whole horse that obviously laid down as he died. Then we move on to see some humans and what they were doing in those last fateful hours. This pair is apparently a man and his slave, both lying on their backs, with a very high degree of detail on the body parts. Here is what seems to be a family with mother and father and 2 children still playing in the final stages of their demise. This person is lying face down, and it's hard to know whether they are trying to keep away from the toxic fumes or whether they are just asleep. Also very well preserved are all the carvings and architecture that was around in those buildings, and clearly at this time nudity was quite acceptable.
Before the eruption, the city stood right close to the sea edge. And now, all things considered, Pompeii shifted 2 kilometers inland. Before the big eruption, Pompeii had lots of little minor earthquakes, and it continued to rock the city for years. That's why no one actually took the big eruption seriously on August the 24th, 79 AD. The wind direction played a huge part in the destruction of Pompeii because the wind usually blows from the southwest of the city, but unfortunately for Pompeii, the wind took a northwesterly path, and it took with it all the debris from the eruption. Actually, at the time of the eruption, Pompeii didn't even have a name or a term for it.
So we're in the main square of Pompeii right here, which is all where the action happened all those years ago. Absolutely fascinating. We've got columns, we've got statues, we've got people, we've got lots of people. It's still quite early in the morning and we got about 30 degrees and everyone's got around about the same look on their face, which is like, it's really hot here.
It's 11 o'clock in the morning, exactly. They say by August it gets to be 40 degrees.
40, 42. Now I've just got to find John. People seem to have the same hat as he does. Ah! There he is! Found!
So we're in the big
in
square.
Pompeii! Found in Pompeii!
Oh, look at that view of Vesuvius. It's a pretty good view of Vesuvius that way, isn't it?
It's very cool.
Science discovered how Pompeii people had perfect teeth, And they put that down to the results of a good diet and high fluoride content around the volcano. How on earth are these walls still standing after all these years? Well, I'm glad you asked. Apparently, the Romans made concrete by mixing volcanic ash with lime and seawater to make mortar. And apparently, Vesuvius is overdue for another eruption. Okay, so we wondered what these big rocks were in the middle of the road. Turns out there was no sewage system, so everyone just peed and did their serious business right here in the road. And those stones were made so you could walk across. They also said there is a guy or a business that used to collect pee, and that was because they would mix the pee with the volcanic ash and volcanic rock, and that would create the laundry detergent. So it was very valuable, and they used to wash their clothes with it. So talk about a lucrative business. So apparently they knew that even the name of the slaves, because the slaves would write their name on the wine chalices that would go around the country to Rome, sending messages to their family that they were alive. It's pretty amazing to think that all of this was covered in volcanic ash and preserved for 2,000 years. Okay, have a look down here. This road is obviously thousands of years old, but here are the tracks of the carts and the wagons that were pulling wine and products and stones, grooved into the stones. So this is the small amphitheater here that they really used for poems and entertainment. Everything here is original.
It is very rare to find amphitheatres that are complete with the original stones. This is because in most cases the stones are plundered by future generations who use them for their own building purposes. Also, earthquakes and tremors cause the buildings to fall apart and destroy the buildings over time. But because Pompeii was completely buried under the volcanic ash for all these years, there was no plundering, and that burying gave the buildings much more stability and support.
Extraordinary. We've just been through the city and the ruins of Pompeii, the civilization that was discovered 79 AD, and it's phenomenal. You know, you can see how people lived, you can see the streets, the buildings that they had. You can even see there's a few mummified corpses that are in the museum that have been preserved. And you can see how they actually died, you know, covering their faces or lying down, or, you know, back obviously in a lot of anguish. So, you know, you got to be prepared for that too. And when you consider how many deaths there were over 2,000 registered deaths, but that was only if you were wealthy and there was a record of your existence. Phenomenal place. I would recommend, if anyone was close to Naples or Sorrento in Italy, to come to Pompeii, because it's just a piece of history that is well worth the visit. There's always the merchants.
Thank you.
So now we just hold our breath to find our dinghy that we left here parked.
It is always reassuring when you get back from a day trip and find your dinghy is safe and secure, and also that your main boat is also safe at anchor. As I got the lines for the dinghy here, I was approached by a security man from the pontoon on the left who told me I was parked illegally. I need to get away in a hurry in case the police came around. This sort of situation was very common in Italy and very frustrating because there are no signs and you have no idea if the person you're speaking to has his own vested interests or if he's actually telling the truth. Okay guys, so today I wanted to talk about, do you know how to tie clove hitch? And of course 99% of people who are sailors will say yes I do. Then I want to ask, can you tie a clove hitch really fast if it's an emergency, and can you tie it in the dark? A typical scenario, and this happens quite regularly, you're coming into a marina, just like this one here. There's a strong crosswind, the boat goes out of control. You have to simultaneously, especially if you're short-handed, tie a fender in a certain place and get back and throw a rope in another direction. So this has to be done really fast, really efficiently, and without any hesitation. If you're going to be going sailing, you really need to learn how to do this fast, automatically, and without having to think. Of course, everybody learns how to do a clove hitch and then they think they can do it. But when you can do it under pressure, that's the most important thing, and you have to be able to do it fast and blindfolded, because in the dark you cannot see where the ropes are. So I want to show you how to do that right now, so when you're in that emergency situation you'll be able to sort it out. Okay guys, so probably everybody knows to tie clove hitch, you take a loop round, you cross it over, and you take it up through the second loop you tie. Now that obviously is an instant knot. You also need to be, first of all, close your eyes and do it again, so that with my eyes closed I can do it. What you often find with clove hitches is people sort of do one loop and then they get confused as to where to put the other one through. Take your loop over and pinch it with your left hand if you're right-handed. Create a second loop, and the second loop is done completely unrelated to the first loop. So they're there and they cross over and you get the clove hitch. The most important thing for the clove hitch when you're dealing with fenders, typically the fenders have to be at a certain height. So people will sort of try to do a clove hitch in whatever way they've learned. So doing it the same way, I'm pinching it there, I'm taking it back around, and so there's is that right? That is right. Now I have to adjust the height. You see now, okay, it's a bit too deep, so I've got to pull it up, I've got to shorten that. Okay, so that adjustment of height is very time consuming in the event of an emergency, and that's what I want to show you how to overcome that. Okay, so if this is an emergency situation and we're tying this, we drop the fender down to the desired height, put your finger on it there, and then take the rope around itself, and then with the second loop unrelated, you pull the knot tight. Then it's done. You don't know adjustment, and you just walk away and throw the lines and do whatever the other things are that are emergency and needing to be done fast. The key here is to adjust the height and depth of the fender first. Put your finger on it there to lock it so it doesn't move, and then you do the loop, you take it round, you take it back up through the loop you created with the second loop. Done. If you're used to taking it over this way, for example, and then tying it, sometimes people will get confused if they do it the other way. So for example, if you take it around this way instead, you've got to bring the rope back around here to this side, and then tie the second loop. So whichever way you take your first loop, the second loop has to cross over the first loop. So you can do it either way, it doesn't make any difference at all, but just don't get yourself confused if
you do one way normally and then you end up finding yourself doing it the other way. You've always got to cross the second loop over and tie the second loop on itself, not on the first loop. So also practice it on vertical situations. So again, here we have, I'm taking the loop over the top, so the second loop has to go underneath, and you've got to take it back through the loop, the second loop unrelated to the first loop. So there I'm holding this loop up there, that loop's down there, and there you have it. Of course, the reverse is if I took the first loop under and then pinch, my second loop has to go upwards. But you're always going around the thing in the same direction. So this rope is going around that way, keep on going around the same direction, but you take it through the loop that you're making with the second knot. The other quick thing is if you've got a single pole that you want to put a clove hitch on, create a loop, so that loop's going under, create the same loop going under, and just cross them over. And then you can put it onto your pole and tighten it in, and you have a clove hitch. Okay guys, so practice that one in the dark with your eyes closed and in a hurry, so you can do it instantly and have your fender or whatever it is, you have it the exact length first time. Hope that helps.
We left without any problem and got back to the boat safely for a nice glass of wine.
Thanks for watching, guys, and if you like what we do, show us the love and hit the like button, then hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well, so you don't miss out on your regular fix. Then kick off your shoes and you can come barefoot with us.